wait, Stouty. So basically, there's a big thing coming up, very big thing. We will be doing a debate stream, Stouty, and we want you to join. Sunglasses has already said that he could smoke you in a drag debate. Now, I said, are you sure? Because Stouty is kind of a goat at debating, but I don't know. You would have to come prove it. So, do you want to join my debate stream, Stouty?
Are you gonna moderate the debate, though? Like structure it into like rounds?
my sleep.
Whoa! That's a fucking logical fallacy, bro. I could smoke
right now,
it in
right
my
now,
sleep. Right now. Sunglasses, would you do it right now? Would you do it right now? Like, I know you want a prep time, but like.
Prep time.
Oh my god. Okay.
Holy big.
Holy shit. Okay, this is big. This is fucking big. Wait, we need like a background I can put up, guys. Like a debate background.
Oh shit, man.
Oh my goodness.
Yo,
man.
Good evening.
Good
Oh, good afternoon, my bad.
Is it happening? Is it happening?
Afternoon. It is. I think it
I'm
is.
slightly drunk.
Slightly, man. Slightly.
That Gilbert FT10 hit Stouty hard.
He actually went into
Alright,
it.
he's drinking. Alright.
Hello, Study. What's up, bro?
Everyone's here.
Good afternoon.
Yo.
Yo.
Voice sensitivity coming up.
I want to read everything in the chat first.
What?
I'm in a group chat.
Alright, so.
Do we have a ref?
Is it just gonna be open dialogue, or are you guys like doing rounds?
I think rounds are kind of retarded. What do you think, Stouty?
Okay.
Yeah, can we just do.
Oh, can I say retarded? I swear that's not 2S, right?
I don't know, I said retarded, so. I think
Everyone
as
spams
well.
it, bro. It's fine.
Yeah, we
no
spam it.
We spam it.
What's the exact prompt?
it's gonna be, are dragging good or bad for the game?
Okay, I mean, that's a bit of a bad prompt.
Okay, what do you think it should be?
It's not specific enough.
Okay.
Stouty, have you had any specific prompts in any prior drag debates, or have they also been vague?
I mean, the two big ones would be, are they good for the game, or like are they interesting, are they worth having? And then the other one would be, were they even intended to begin with? Which isn't really that relevant, to be honest. But
Yeah, if it's intended is kind of, I don't care about that.
yeah.
Sounds like you don't either. So if they're interesting or worth having, what would you say is the biggest argument against having them in the game?
The biggest one would be the fact that the general population is never going to see them as like a cool mechanic. They're always going to be put off by them. And you can see that already in some of the comments for the Renown video. You know, Stimpy was playing Renown a bit. And like there's a comment of 2,000 upvotes saying, oh, when he started to drag, I got PTSD, and not in a good way. So yeah, I just don't see drags ever going mainstream in that sense, because yeah, there's such an instant put off for anyone that's somewhat familiar with Chivalry and Mordhau, and they've already seen them before, and you know they didn't like them then. I don't see why they'd like them in future iterations.
Alright, so you think that it sounds like no matter the implementation, you think that the general population will just dislike drags on the face, like on the face value of drags?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't think there's a way to make them look good.
Fair enough. No way to make them look good. Would you have any arguments as a devil's advocate in terms of drags? What would you see as the pros of having drags in the game? Or do you think there's no real pros to having drags at all?
So to be clear, when we're talking about drags, we're not talking about swing manipulation, right? We're just talking about when you're deliberately delaying your attack for an advantage, like to get around like a time parry. So obviously I like excels and target switching and all the other cool things that you can do with swing manip, and even to an extent, I guess you would call it dragging around like a hitbox. You know, in Civ 1, sometimes you can like side stab people. I wouldn't consider that a drag in the sense that you're not really delaying your attack, although there is some delay to it, but the main intent there.
Yeah, it's the direction of the attack, not the timing.
Exactly. So I'm really specifically just talking about people slowing down their attacks, like looking to the sky, that kind of thing, just making it take as long as possible. And even from a mechanical perspective, I don't think they're that interesting. Like some people would say, oh, like dragging's really skill based. I don't think it's that skill based. Like I can coach someone to do a good drag in about an hour, and then they can have a good riposte mix up. I don't think it's like super skillful really. And when it comes to defending them, nobody's really trying to react to them. As far as I can see, I'm not really trying to react to them when I'm playing. Good players that I've witnessed, they're just early powering and running. I don't think it's really like mechanically that interesting. I think the feint gameplay loop's way better. So I can't really see any advantages to them, to be honest. And then we're comparing it to like a hypothetical system where you still have all the cool things of swing manipulation, you just don't have dragging.
Okay, but it seems a little bit dishonest to have a hypothetical system where you can't delay your attacks, but you can change the direction of them. Because at least I cannot.
I can't reveal how I would do it. But just for for an example of a system where that is the case, this isn't a good example because it's not very skill based. But Dark and Darker, you have swing manipulation, but there's no dragging. But there's also like nothing else, to be honest. Like there's even like very little parrying. But that is still an example of a system where you have swing manipulation, but at no point do people drag. And you can still drag in that you can slow down your attack, but there's never any incentive to do so. So I would consider that system has successfully eliminated dragging from its game.
That was also my perception of playing Dark and Darker. All right. So when you're saying that you value the direction changes exactly, what is it you see that's advantageous compared to delaying attacks? Because wouldn't you also be able to argue that on a dime, switching an attack from going into someone to going over someone and hitting someone else is also visually unattractive?
No, because it's pretty fast when it happens. It just feels like a natural thing that you'd want to do sometimes.
Feels like a natural thing you'd want to do sometimes.
Yeah, like if you start an attack and like you want to actually take off.
Yeah, I mean,
it doesn't look bad. It looks pretty flashy when it happens.
All right, so it just kind of sounds like it's the like 90% of the argument in your case is the presentation of drags, right? And that's like and it doesn't sound like the mechanical aspect of drags is the main issue.
I said for the mechanical side, I don't think there's anything there that's keeping them into. Like, I wouldn't at any point see drags as like, oh, we have to keep them. Even if they look bad, we have to keep them because they're actually super in-depth and cool. I don't think there's anything actually there that would ever really fall for that. So I don't think there's anything mechanically going on with them that's like better than a feint. And then on top of that, they look terrible. But I'd be interested in, do you think like they are like adding anything to the game in terms of the gameplay?
If they're adding any, I mean, let's argue. Let's for the sake of the argument just stick to duels. I think mostly because those are simpler and like smaller in scope. So for duels, when it comes to swing manipulation, which I think is the most engaging mechanic in Mordhau, I haven't played Shiv much, but I would imagine it was probably similar compared to feigning. Because feigning's like a pretty one-dimensional thing that's going on in terms of the optimal feint. Is almost always the latest one. So when it comes to the like how engaging it is to partake in the game on a mechanical basis, the mechanical execution and the variety increases when you have drags that are available to the players. And it's not only in swing manip, it's also when it comes to neutral and calling out, for example, in Mordhau, like countering chambers and stuff like that as well. Depends on like the version of Mordhau that's played, because it's not as realistic in vanilla with the current chamber timings.
Bet Lord doesn't. Oh, Lord, do you keep VODs? I think you do actually.
What?
If Tagas stays quiet, we will have the VOD.
Yeah, it takes us not a fucking shit.
If he unmutes, shut that shit down.
You're saying that drags are actually like the best parts of a duel.
I wouldn't say they're the best part of a duel, but I would say they add meaningfully to a duel, because swing and manip is the most engaging in terms of the ways you can like partake in the game in a mechanical sense. Because you know we have like just in Mordhau alone, let's use binds. We have many directions that are available, and these directions also have great variety in how you choose to like swing manipulate. And it comes to a point where if you can't drag very deep, the what's it called? It will become more oriented towards a stamina-based playstyle, which is sort of war of attrition-like. And we see that when we played, if you play like let's say, like Maul versus Maul or Polehammer versus Polehammer swing manip only, you will have you will most likely end in a very prolonged duel that ends with someone being disarmed or getting outstamped in some other way.
But wouldn't you say that's a bad thing if both players are just swing manipping each other? And then it ends up into a stam thing.
I think it's preferable. I think prolonged duels where the main thing you're attacking is each other's stamina bar, because swing manipulation in this sense is limited.
And you're saying that's
is less preferable, as the gameplay it's less dynamic and it's less fast. I think people like fast-paced gameplay in general.
Well, we're kind of getting lost in different territory there. But so I guess my main thing I'd say there is I don't think taking riposte is actually the most interesting part of a duel. In my opinion, the best thing you can do in a duel that's like the most exciting, most thrilling, the most rewarding is when you read a feint and then you punish the feint. And that's the case in Chivalry 1 as well, which you can't really do that in Crush Mod, aka Vanilla, because there's only 3 weapons that actually allow you to do that, like the Warhammer, Messer, Falchion, basically the only weapons that you can do that with. But in Civ 1, you could do that with a lot more weapons, so I guess that's why I have that playstyle, because I'm a Civ 1 boomer. But like in terms of riposte being interesting, I don't think that's really the case, because I mean, if you watch my playstyle, I only have one riposte that I can really do properly because it's the only one I bothered to learn. So I have the right overhead excel into the right overhead foot drag, and I can just throw that one out there like over and over again, and it still works.
Stoutlaws knows this one.
Yeah. And it doesn't really feel like either player is really interacting with the game at that point. So I'll go for my mix-up, and then when you're defending against it, it's not really readable. So you just have to early parry, and then if it's an excel, you've caught the parry. And if it's a drag, at that point, you just start running. But you're going to do that regardless. You're not really changing anything up based on on-screen information. You're basically playing solitaire from this point on. You early parry, if parry, yes. If drag, run. And that's basically all that happens inside a riposte duel. Would you agree?
So there are two things. One is subjective, and another point of disagreement, and another one is more so pertaining directly to your argument. So you said that you're what's it called? So you feel as if there's almost no variety, in part because we're only using overheads, right?
Well, no, it doesn't really matter. So in terms of swing direction, it's not really a directional-based game. It's very much a timing-based game.
Yeah.
You don't have to I mean, if you had like 20 different drags available, maybe like that would give you some advantage. I'm not sure. But really, you can get by just by having one in your arsenal, just doing one mix-up over and over again. Maybe two, occasionally go from the different direction in case they get too used to footworking in a particular way. But yeah, the different directions, I don't think are actually adding anything there. Because really, all you're doing is you're just mixing up the timing. That's the most important factor. It's just the timing mix-up.
I think that's largely true in duels. If we're just thinking about developing an efficient playstyle, not necessarily a fun one. And then another one. You said that your experience of reading mostly pertains to early parrying and footworking.
When we're dealing with riposte, yeah, I would say that ripostes are basically unreadable. I think there's some players that can kind of react to them better than others, and even sometimes I find myself kind of reacting to them. But if you try to react to them enough, you will just get caught by the excel, the red parry excel. So, and we did that test where we got like red, blue, and others, red, blue, and bear specifically to just stand still and see if they can actually react to it. As in, like, you're not early parrying, you're actually trying to react to it, and they got hit every single time. So I would say, like, if you get these very high level players to do that and they're still unable to do it, I would say they're basically unreadable. To the point where you have to utilize like the mitigation, as they call it in NA, of the early parrying and running. And I don't think that's particularly.
I mean, so when you're saying that we're standing still and parrying, I don't think it proves much in any gameplay scenario, because we are, in 99% of the time, we're never standing still.
Yeah, but if you were to do that with a feint, you could actually just stand still and read, because it is a reactable thing. So from a skill-based perspective, I think the feint loop is more skill-based because you can react to it. Whereas, yeah, there's skill to knowing how to mitigate, but less so that I think in terms of like actual reaction and being able to input correctly, as opposed to just trying to cover all bases with like a pre-learned loop that you pull out every time.
All right. So I disagree with the fact that we're using a pre-learned loop we're pulling out every time. So there are, as you said, there's definitely certain players who are much better at reading than others. And when it comes to, I don't know who you would think is the best one.
When we're talking about reading a riposte.
Yeah, reading riposte in this case. I'm not talking about standing still either. I'm talking as a standard duel. So when I'm thinking of like the very best when it comes to reading, I'd say Turnip is a fair example of like a pretty high tier duelist when it comes to reading. Probably not the best, but like definitely up there when it comes to reading riposte.
Turnip has very good movement. Like I can't catch him with my drags, but that's because he runs away very well. But I don't think he's reading because he does early parry and then he runs away. So even Turnip's doing that. Reading would be like...
I would, at least recently, we've been playing on a mod that makes it so you can't just turn and run for the most part. And the even in that mod, I wouldn't say ripostes are hitting people much more often than they want beforehand. But I mean, that's if you don't want to argue that, that's fine because you haven't played on the mod yourself, so that's.
Well, I know it's definitely the
whatever.
case where some players can just kind of sit back and still parry fairly well to a point where it's like somewhat surprising. But yeah, I'm not sure if it really changes my perspective much because I just don't think mechanically, even beyond that, the fact that they may or may not be unreadable, I just don't think they're really that fun to use or go up against. But I guess that's more of a
well, when it comes to stuff being fun to use and go up against, like if we're talking about one-sided interactions, I would, at least from what I can see, the little bit of Shiv I had played and the Shiv meter I have like engaged with, it seems like people like despised feints.
Is this Shiv 1 or Shiv 2?
Shiv 1. I mean, Shiv 2 combat is not very similar to Shiv 1 at all, I would think. But when I say Shiv, I'm referring to Shiv 1, unless I say Shiv 2. So, you have like the classic examples of like also the like no feints dual yards that were fairly like common.
Yeah.
And feints in general being, at least the lethality of feints and lethality, like how easy it is to kill people in Shiv were like extremely high to an almost, like uninteractive degree for newer players.
Yeah, that is definitely something I would agree with, and it's something that I'm not too sure how to argue against because I often cite like the negative opinion people have of dragging and drags. Like people leave bad reviews of Mordhau and Shiv 1 because of all the dragging, but often those reviews do also mention feints. So it's like, I don't know, can I really say that about drags? And people would also say that about feints. But I don't think the way Mordhau leaves players out in the cold and Shiv 1 does this as well, with having to just, like you said, if you can't read a feint, you're just going to get killed straight away by a feint. I don't think that's ideal. I think Shiv 2, you haven't played it, but Shiv 2 does actually deal with this a bit better in that you don't see people really complain about feints or drags because they have like the crutch of the held parry, which is available for everyone, whereas there's a crutch available in Mordhau, but it's not really accessible by the newest people because you have to learn how to chamber, and if you're on binds, that takes a while, and if you're on 240, it's still a little bit tricky to do. So yeah, I kind of see what you're saying there in terms of people also dislike feints on some level. Maybe they just dislike anything that kills them. That could be.
I mean, yeah, generally people hate losing.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but I'm thinking like of this game system now, in terms of like overall, like how dynamic the game would be, in terms of how fast we can kill people. I think is a very important aspect of it. Because games end up feeling very uninteractive if you can't kill people quickly. A very notorious example of this that also goes like across game genres. You saw it in Overwatch with the GOATS meta, and you saw it in League of Legends and the tank meta, where these have been by far the most unpopular metas these games have ever seen. Because it's just, people are like bullet sponges that are living for like a minute at a time, and it's just no fun at all. So I think if we're removing offensive capabilities, like dragging, then I think it also ends up creating a very stale game experience.
Yeah, I'd say the thing that makes it feel uninteractive is the fact that you can't do anything. So when someone takes a riposte, you pretty much just have to sit back and watch their entire riposte play out because they have the complete control of initiative throughout the entire riposte. Whereas when you feint someone, you're actually offering up the initiative to anyone who can read and potentially punish. So I feel like when you're talking about initiative, really, dragging is the exact opposite because, oh, I can't remember the word you said actually, not initiative, but
Uninteractive?
yeah, interactive. Yeah, I think the Feint gameplay is way more interactive because it actually is a two-player game as opposed to just like one person doing everything and then, oh, now it's your turn type of thing.
I mean, I think that's a little bit facetious because if you are, I'm assuming this is a game where like dragging, swing manip and feints are equally viable.
I'm just talking about Mordhau.
Oh, talking about Mordhau specifically?
Yeah, so when you take a riposte in Mordhau, it's not very interactive for the defender. You just have to early parry and move. At no point can you really.
That's
And
true,
it's like
but if
you could occasionally chamble, but like that's not very.
you can choose to not engage in that playstyle in Mordhau. There are certain weapons you can choose not to like use.
Or kite shield.
Not quite. If you play, there are certain weapons that dominate the like neutral game a lot more, and you see that with like.
Well, we're talking about riposte. You can't really avoid the riposte loop if someone takes a riposte.
No, but you can choose to mitigate it a ton depending on weapon choice and playstyle. Like if you an extreme example would be like playing, let's say like Bastard Sword versus Maul. The Maul it was not doing much swing manip there, for example. But people are generally shying away. Like even more casual players that you like run into in ranked are like still playing Zweihander and stuff like that a lot.
Right, but when they're in riposte, they're still just watching the riposte until their riposte is complete. There's no interactivity there. It's just it's their turn. Don't even think about doing anything.
The interactivity comes from reading. You're
Well, you're not really reading, are you? Just early parrying and moving if it's a drag.
That's gonna be like a subjective difference, but at least my personal experience, and I'm certain at least a lot of the better players in the chat would also feel this way, that you are to like a pretty like tangible and high degree, you get the experience of reading a riposte.
I'm not sure I'd agree.
Yeah, I'm rarely just like slamming my like right mouse button and just like praying to God that he doesn't correct for my footwork.
That's when I watch, like, I'm talking even like Pog, anyone you want to name. Like when I watch them play against riposte, that seems like that's what they're doing. They're just parrying and moving, and it kind of plays out or it doesn't play out. Like that's what I see from any top player in a riposte fight. It doesn't really feel like anyone comfortably is actually defending, other than just like praying basically.
When you're talking about comfortable defending, like what kind of success rate are we looking for?
It's not even a success rate. It's more just like. You can ego read when it comes to feints. Like you can actually just sit back and ego read. You don't really ever see someone like ego taking riposte or giving riposte and just like parrying. It's not really. You never see that, do you? But I guess that's also due to the fact that you have to actually initiate to give them the riposte. That could be part of it. But yeah, I just don't see people like standing still and just hard reading or hard parrying. I don't know what you'd call it, like hard parrying riposte. They never do
I
that.
think ego reading is a good term for this.
Yeah. Well, you can do that with a feint. You can do that.
I mean, I don't think it's very relevant or not if people are choosing or not choosing to stand still when it comes to
it's
reading
not a choice.
something.
So, like if you're in the corner or something, that's when you start to see like the most all-out drags. When someone.
I mean, yeah, if you have limited movement, yes, that's true. But
whereas if they're feinting there, yeah, it's the hardest feints that you could possibly have to read, but you could still read them. And maybe like I mean, Soul kind of did actually do this where he was like ego reading ripostes in the test. But then Red Blue went against him with his Vine. He did a lot better than I was doing against him. But like there's some degree to
that's true. But that sounds like more of a weapon issue almost. That you're saying that he just goes Zweihander.
Could also be a skill issue because like at that point I wasn't playing Sword. I was just message dragging.
Oh, okay.
But my best of drags were more than enough to like literally hit Bear and Red Blue 10 times out of 10. But Soul was doing better against them than Bear and Red Blue were. But
I mean, the what I usually consider like the most, I guess, the highest tier like dual gameplay we have like on hand would be like the Red Blue versus Poach most like recent. What's it called? First attempt that Poach has uploaded on his channel.
Was that just Vice v5?
It is, yeah. But you can, when you're looking at how they're defending, it's not like they aren't like parrying at the same time or close to the same time every time and choosing to like run in and out. Like it's I guess you could, like, if you use boxing terminology, they're almost like squared up against each other for a lot of the swings as well, and they aren't just like eating hits off these either.
I mean, I'm just clicking to like a random timestamp, and the first thing I see is Red Blue dying to Ripostic, so I mean people are gonna die, but yeah, I don't know. I'll keep watching.
But I mean, I guess
Yeah, I mean,
The-
like
the
I've watched
main
for, like 3
argument is
seconds,
the,
and I've just seen everyone get hit within like the first riposte that they take. This one from Pog's a 29 millisecond red parry, to be fair, but it's just, no one seems comfortable when dealing with riposte, even like the best players in the game. It's just like, oh fuck, like I mean, maybe you'd say that's a good thing, but to me, it feels terrible to play.
I don't think that's an issue. At least I think a duel should end like at least in like less than 20 seconds, ideally.
I disagree. I would prefer to see fights where, honestly, it could be like tennis rallies where some rallies just. I don't like a time limit at all, to be honest. I don't like the stam system in Mordhau. I think that if you're playing perfectly and both players are playing perfectly, it shouldn't just end arbitrarily where the stam bar dictates it should end. But that's on a whole nother level of stam.
But I would argue that like leads to super stale gameplay.
Well, it depends on. what
I
games you
think
do. If you're
I
talking
think a
duels,
game
then
needs like a conclusion at some
I
point
agree.
or an engagement.
I think the conclusion should come from the game mode. So, for example, in Gold Rush, there's a timer. So, like, if the fight takes longer than 2 minutes and 30 seconds, then the round's over. But I don't think a duel should just end because the stam bar says so. But yeah, it's kind of off topic, I guess. Like, I think this is one of the things Mobius actually did well, is they had them, like, what was it called? Like, when you were outstammed, exhausted. I wouldn't do
Yeah.
exactly how they did it, but I kind of like that, where you could still, if you perfect parried everything, you could actually still survive when you reach 0 stam. You don't just insta-die like you do in Mordhau.
I think the stamina system worked fairly well, but I would say like you're saying that we should like evaluate it by game mode. That the Mobius implementation didn't. We never played the actual game mode it was supposed to be on.
Yeah, of course. But
even then, like there's a stamina system in Mobius. If we're talking like about implementation wise, I feel like the stamina costs were way steeper in Mobius, and you got outstammed a lot quicker in that game than in Mordhau.
yeah, potentially. I'm not really like advocating for everything from Mobius. I'm just saying like that's the one thing.
The one specific
like-
mechanic.
Yeah, we should get back to drags though. I don't know how to.
That's true.
Get back on the topic, but
I think still the
I have a
last
question,
thing we were
another
talking
question.
about was the subjective experience of reading drags. But I guess there's no real way to measure that and the fun from it apart from a poll. But I guess like the audience here would be a little bit biased when it comes to.
I don't think we even have to do a
the
poll.
timing.
I'm watching these players, the red, blue, and Pog. Nobody. I wouldn't say anyone's reading. I would say like they're doing their best to guess, and most of the time they guess wrong. When they read the feints very well and very accurately, but when it comes to riposte, it's like oh, fuck. Like you can see red, blue straight away. He's hitting early parries, backing away. He's just doing his best to mitigate. Like no one's reading these, so I wouldn't even say that's an objective thing. A subjective thing. I think you can just watch what's happening and see that players are just they're not reading.
But
my
I'm
question
talking
to
about
you-
the experience of reading, not
But that's the thing, they're
not
not-
the
they're
success
not
rate of
reading.
reading.
They're not reading. They're just. I would say reading. When I say read, I'm talking about reaction. So you can accurately sit back and say
And
yes
assess.
or no. Yeah, like you would with a feint. Like when you play against a normal swing, or like some people call them neutral swings, it's a different mindset to how you play against a riposte. You actually can just sit back and wait and react. And I just don't see that in the riposte gameplay loop.
Yeah, but if we're talking about like the the experience of like what we're choosing as more fun for the game, like these
But that's
people are
different,
still
yeah.
going Swyander versus Swyander, like they're not locking on Bastard Sword, for example, like in
Right,
this
but I
duel.
would say that's probably because Vi is actually just better. Because the riposte gameplay loop is better in every aspect. It doesn't cost stamina. You
I
have
mean,
complete
the
control
very
of
best
initiative.
weapon in vanilla at this point in time, which is what the game was played on, was Polehammer. Like without a shred of doubt, it was the best weapon.
Disagree. Hard disagree. That's like an NA opinion.
No,
In-
you could Mark specifically. His playstyle is like ultra cancerous when it comes to duels at the time, because the Polehammer is fundamentally uninteractive with the way it's implemented in Mordhau.
I mean, the polehammer's a feint weapon, and feints just get red in EU. So I don't think that's true at all. Like who's Mark
I would
beating-
really disagree with that. When
Who's Mark
you
beating
can also
Warhammer?
see in like in tournament play before it was banned. Like this is not duel specifically, but the polehammer player was always the ones like having like
Well,
the
that's
best score,
slightly
the best
different
KD,
because
and
you
stuff like
could-
that as well.
in a team fight, if you can quickly get that 2-shot, then that could definitely win the entire round. But in a duel, I would seriously doubt that anyone's like winning a duel tournament with polehammer when Zwei exists. If everyone's like, or Maul, I would say light turnip Maul would beat anyone's polehammer, because light turnip would just read everything and outstam you. So
I mean, this is just a opinion of player performance, but I do not think Light Turnip
Well,
would.
you just don't see Polehammer there.
at least I wouldn't put money on Light Turnip winning versus Mark on Polehammer.
oh,
Ball.
100% words, 100% words. Let's get them in there.
I feel like we need to run like a gambling experiment. Like how?
When was the last time someone won like a first attempt with a polehammer?
It's been banned, so
By who?
like right
if
before
if
it
it's
wasn't
a
banned.
first attempt, like who's banning it? It's just you can play anything. They kite
I
shield
mean, at
first
least in
attempt.
that depends like what like what's I guess circles you're in, but the at least the like circles of comp I interact with the most, like polehammer's like universally banned.
I think polehammer's like a really weak weapon, to be honest. But anyway, so do you? I guess my question is: do you think dragging, regardless of whether or not you think it's a good mechanic, do you think dragging could ever be accepted by like the wider gaming public as it and become like a genre where it's rivaling? Well, I guess you might say that it can never rival FPS, but I guess do you think dragging could ever like go mainstream, or a game that has drags?
I mean, we have so in general, I think it's hard to make these assessments. We have such a like we haven't seen the like exhaustively the implementations of drags and feints. But I will say that the most popular melee game so far is one where we had a like specifically an anti-chamber mechanic, but not an anti-swing minute mechanic. When you compare Mordhau to Shiv, Shiv 1 that is.
Wait, so you're saying that Mordhau being more popular than Shiv 1 proves that dragging is...
That swing manip oriented, because would you say that Mordhau is more swing manip oriented or more feint oriented than Chivalry 1 is?
Swing minute.
Definitely, right?
Yeah.
So, like, if the game is more popular, then wouldn't it like stand to reason that the what's it
Sorry,
called?
1 second, Atroxo. According to Stouty, every melee slasher should look like half sword. You're just like, you're so low IQ. It's actually.
He said
crazy,
no. He's a
like,
genius, bro. He has 148 IQ. You can ask him yourself.
like half sword doesn't even have. It's not even the same genre, bro.
What's that
You,
game
you
even?
could have said dark and darker, but it should have been like something that would at least make sense. But yeah, okay, sorry, carry on.
So
Yeah,
I would think
sorry,
by
yeah,
the
I think
very
that's crazy.
limited like
Because
sample
Mordhau
size
did
we have.
so much like new engine, bunch of cosmetics, fixed backswings, kind of had everyone on board with it because it was appealing to comp and casual. Like Mordhau just did so many things. It was so more advanced. I don't think you can really take anything from that and say, oh, because it did better than Shiv 1, that means XYZ is better.
No, I don't have the numbers and how it did versus compared to Chivalry 2, but I think the launch of Mordhau was much bigger, right?
It was big. I would actually say Shiv 2 has kind of won out between the two games, though. If you look at the player counts right now, Mordhau had a bigger peak, but Shiv 2 has more players, and probably us across all platforms as well, not just Steam, which is kind of crazy because it actually came to Steam second. It launched on Epic Games first.
Do we have any good estimates of the total player count?
We know Mordhau has basically got no other players on its other platforms.
Very little, yeah. At least I'm
Whereas
guessing
Shiv
like
2
Steam is like probably 75% of the total player count.
If probably we actually for Mordhau we can actually see all the players across all platforms using
Oh, yeah, we have
Twitch's
that,
website.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see if we can actually.
I'm
see
gonna
that.
guess like right now it's probably 1,200 across all, also including consoles.
Does anyone remember?
But I mean, there's like 10 guys.
What was the website called?
I can't remember.
When I used to check it a lot, the average
Or Red October.
console, the console player count was like there'd be like 50 people between Xbox and PlayStation across both. 50
Does
people.
Mordhau Scribe track it?
I think you can maybe find his website through Scribe. Can't remember. advanced statistics. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I found it. If you go to scribe and click advanced statistics.
And how old is Chivalry 2 release date?
Shiv 2 came out, I want to say like 2021.
April 2021, almost 4 years ago, just over 4 years ago. So I guess you would look at the 2020. You would compare the
I would just compare active
2023
players,
stats compared to.
Honestly, that's probably like the most relevant thing because both games have been out for a while. Both games have had free to keep weeks on Epic that kind of rejuvenated
That's fair enough.
And so right now we're seeing Shiv 2's got about double the players on Steam than Mordhau does. And you could argue that from both ways. You could say Shiv 2 makes it easier against feints and drags. You don't really need to go in any direction with that.
Yeah, I guess Chivalry 2 is hard to conclude anything from as offense is generally weak in that game, or at least from the looks of it, compared to Chivalry 1 and Mordhau.
I wouldn't say it's weak. It's just you can defend multiple times within the same input. You can get it wrong, and then you can like re-input to get it right the second time.
I mean, that sounds like offense would be weaker. Relatively to defense, which is obviously the metric.
But anyway, so back to the question: do you think dragging could ever be like a big thing, like a Rocket League level of success? If you don't want to say all the way to like FPS levels of popularity, do you think dragging in a melee game could ever retain players in that way? And could you ever like
look up Rocket
everyone?
League's player base exactly, so I can have a ballpark.
Well, we don't even need to like I would say like, I don't know, 30k average players, like that kind of level of success.
It looks like it has like 20k average Rocket League.
Yeah, well, I say 20 to 30K, like that kind of level.
Yeah, okay.
And retain them, not just like people are checking it out for a month like they would for Mordhau.
I think it probably could. I think when you look at the people who have sticked around the longest for Mordhau and who still continue to play, they find like swing manip to be really engaging. And I think it says a lot that the what's it called? That when swing manip was advertised a certain way as being against not against, like moderated as like not ballerina stuff. I think it at least sold the idea to swing manip to consumers a lot better. So I think you could probably implement a more conservative version of what it is in Mordhau in a in a combat system that could be successful.
So you're saying you wouldn't? That's kind of like a far out opinion, just that in itself, because usually Mordhau players would say like they just want Mordhau combat, but in a game that's supported. So you actually think?
I mean, Mordhau combat is failed as a competitive game, and as a casual game. If you look at it like 6 years down the line,
but even that's kind of like a far out opinion within like the Mordhau circle.
Yeah, but I think most people are like really delusional about the quality of the game. I think if you objectively look at what we're playing on on our own servers with our own mods, with our own rules, and like we have we are like the game is like pretty distilled from vanilla right now.
The mods and rules kind of take it in the opposite direction. They make it like more drag based from what I've seen.
At least the mods we've been playing on are focused around removing the latest obsession has been removing unskilled defense. So chamber like CFTP on riposts.
Yeah, I mean even that's like a slight riposte nerf because then you can't chamber feint to parry.
I mean it's a riposte buff because you're like the other person is forced to read.
So you're right, exactly. It's like a drag buff. But it's going in the opposite direction.
But I think like my perfect melee game is pretty far away from the most like theoretically popular melee game.
All right, so you're saying like you want some dragging still, and you think if it's minimized,
yes, I think it could be be made a lot more popular than it is right now. And if you look at the like early like Mordhau videos as well, like the dev blogs, people were saying, "Thank God there's not ballerinas." They weren't saying, "Thank God there's not ballerinas," but I would really like dragging removed as well. Like they the common perception seems to be that extreme swing manip in minds of like common players, they hate it, but not necessarily swing manip in of itself.
Well, I think if you go back to those Mordhau videos, like the trailers and stuff, if you filter by new comments, you kind of see what I'm referring to, where people are like, oh, this isn't actually how the game plays, because when they do get their hands on the game, it is just like the...
Yeah, but I would also say Mordhau has fairly extreme swing when it comes to the like visual aspect of it.
Yeah, the thing
And
is,
I think you could probably like hit some like better middle ground if you like tune down the like turn cap slightly and up movement speed, or like change the parry somehow.
yeah, I think
to, like,
Fiefdom
make
has
it-
kind of done that. To be fair, like
I've not played much FIFA, so I wouldn't know.
well, I've not played it either, but I'm just talking about the combat footage. I don't know if anyone plays it right now other than the devs, but like in their last trailer, the very first gameplay duel they showed like a foot drag, but it wasn't like the most abhorrent foot drag ever. At least not to me. Maybe I'm just like immune to seeing them.
I will also say, like, if we're comparing like some super early access footage, not even just like in the case that it's not the final animations, but like we need like really good talented players on it, like break the animations before we can say if they're good or not.
True, but I'm just saying.
Like if we have some noob doing his first drag of his life is going to be the most readable thing in the whole world.
Well, I wouldn't call Mr. Rag a noob, but my point is
Should have seen him play Scalagrad the last time. It was it was not dignifying, man.
I know. I was kind of making your point. I was saying that the drag there didn't look too bad, so maybe there's a way to make them just more acceptable via just not making them as strong. Every time I see a studio come out and say we're embracing drags, there's always such mixed messaging, like, oh yeah, we kind of dislike the zany crazy drags. We don't like those, but we're gonna have like nice drags, and we're gonna make them look nice, and it'll feel good. Every time I've seen that, I mean, Mobius was the biggest culprit of just like...
Yeah, but that's made by retard Americans. It is crazy that like Rongred thinks he has anything to say about melee games. Like this guy with like 8,000 hours in launch was like fucking CTR max. Like if you have that many more hours than your competition and you're not outclassing them, it shows you have a fundamental misunderstanding of how the game works.
Yeah, but they had Wizardish. They had literally the best player in NA.
Yeah, but he's also American.
That's true, but...
And even then, like if you listen to the were you there when like Peony came forward and spoke about like who was making like the big calls in the background? He had like a stream recently.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, it sounded like Wizardish was at least if we go by his words, like ignored more often than he should have been.
I don't know if he said that. The thing is, I just don't think that we can trash talk Rongrat. I just don't think Rongrat's stance actually differs from the average Mordhau player. In fact, it seems like they agreed.
Yeah, but I would also say the average Mordhau player doesn't make very sound arguments.
No,
I think the average Mordhau player is highly delusional about the quality of the game we're playing. I think we just so happen to like the way the game is bad in a lot of ways, and the ways we didn't like it, the community have changed. Because for example, with like late reposting, that's like a little bit of like it's like a stupid mechanic kind of because it's so hidden away, and
Yeah.
there's just like many like mechanics that are unintuitive and like not that cool in concept. I think to a lot of new people that we like because it's increasing the mechanical skill ceiling of the game.
Yeah, we got the Elon Musk edit.
No, I do not want to lower the skill ceiling. I want to make mechanics that are more engaging and cooler in concept. I think pressing riposte 150 milliseconds instead of 78 milliseconds after your parry isn't a very I don't think the average consumer will be sawing about like how cool this was compared to if you watch like the like classic Faker set versus set outplay from like way back when. That's like a way more hype moment than if a dual tournament ended by someone hitting a really late riposte.
Agreed. Well, I don't know about that Faker shit, but yeah, late riposte is cringe. Yeah, I just don't think that even if like you have small drags as like the only drags available, I just don't think you ever want them, because at no point should you really feel encouraged to slow down your weapon intentionally, because you can't ever make that look good. Even if it's on a small level, I still think it's going to put off a lot of players. And if you can make a skill-based combat system without any of that, I feel like that's the surest way to make. Well, it doesn't guarantee that the genre is going to be big, but I think that's putting the genre's best foot forward is without any dragging whatsoever.
mean, at least to me, that sounds like we're at least moving away from what I would consider like some of the meaningful differences between Mordhau and a game like For Honor, where the freeform swing manip is now being limited, and we're now obviously like For Honor has like lock on and functions kind of like a fighting game.
This is the
but
thing. You
it's-
still have all of the freeform manip. You just wouldn't at any point, either through parry windows or through however you want to do it, tightening the turn caps or whatever. You just need to make it so that at no point are you rewarded for slowing down your attack. Just for the sole purpose of slowing it down.
I mean, I guess that would be. I think it's just a very fundamental not misunderstanding, fundamental disagreement that that you think slowing a weapon down is inherently bad, while I think it could be improved upon in a way that makes it more palatable. And I don't think Mobius is a good example of something like that.
No, but I think Mobius is a good example of that kind of mentality, where it's like, oh, people didn't like dragging
because
because
was so bad.
Well, even then, I just think, yeah, we didn't get them to like fully push it all
like
the
the
way
game
in.
was so really bad. Like it can't be overstated enough how bad of a game Mobius was. You could have any design philosophy like in mind, and these people would fuck it up.
But like part of that is the philosophy, and I think what happens is eventually whoever is funding it is like, okay, we're no longer putting money into this because this shit's whack. And part of the reason why it's whack is because you have this mentality of, oh, we're just gonna like trick everyone into liking drags because we're gonna teach it in the tutorial. We're gonna market it with drags, and it's like, yeah, no wonder this game got the plug pulled out from underneath it, because that won't ever work. It's just delusional.
I mean, at least from the sounds of it, it sounded like they had a larger budget than Mordhau had. I don't know how many of that was like from investors or from Ron
Well,
Gods.
I guess
like,
Mordhau didn't really have a budget though, because people
had like
working on it.
The Kickstarter was like 350K or something. I don't know if they had any external investors, but it didn't. From what I know, like from
right, but like
the law merchants I know, it didn't sound like it.
If Marix was being paid by the hour, if you were to like take that into account, Mordhau's budget was probably higher, because like Marix is like a very intelligent super genius, like PhD computer science theoretical. Like if you were to count his effective salary when it comes to the Mordhaus development, you probably would have reached a higher figure than what Mobius had. No offense to Wheeze, but I think Marix is probably like more experienced and would command.
I mean, if he has a PhD, he probably is, but I mean, we do not know how they were paid. From what I know, the only figure I have to go off is the Kickstarter money.
Well, what I'm saying is part of the reason is why is because Mordhau didn't have to pay Marix, because Marix was working on it with they had a revenue share agreement.
Yeah, exactly. So at least when
it's not really a fair comparison.
I guess it depends how you quantify the budget. I have no idea if they had like revenue sharing in mind for Mobius either. But from the money they had during development, it definitely looked like Mobius had more weight to throw around.
You could have put better developers, whatever you want in Mobius. So long as it has that philosophy behind it, I'd say it still fails, because you can't just onboard people into dragging. You can't market it in a way that's cool, or ever can be cool. And I think a good example of this is you had Mortem trailer. They didn't showcase a single drag. Presumably they have drags. I think they've confirmed they have drags, but we didn't see any of that in the trailer. And they know as much as anyone does that you just can't market that. People don't want them. People have seen them before. If people liked dragging, they would be playing Mordhau right now, but they're not. I think, it's just.
Really, no drags. I don't remember any off the top of my head, but I certainly remember as if there's swing manipulation in the game.
There's swing.
There's a very small one, but I mean, it's definitely not what I would imagine a maxed out drag would look like.
The craziest part was they did like a spin. It was like almost like a fake Excel into.
But wouldn't that sort of be? Do you not think if you let's say you delay your attack by like spinning around and doing like some sort of like cool pirouette or stuff like that, do you not think that would be more like palatable for like new players? So like we're not like, the sword isn't going at 1 kilometer an hour. Instead we have the knight doing some like epic spin or whatever.
I can't pretend to understand exactly what the intent of that spin was, because it's like I imagine it would kind of class as a drag if there's a timed parry. But I think spinning's kind of dangerous territory because, like, obviously Mordhau's campaign was based on the fact that we don't want spinning.
That's
so
true.
to then reintroduce spins is a little bit. I kind of
but
like them, to be
I'm
honest.
not
I don't want
necessarily saying like
but,
spinning. I'm talking like I guess you could say movie-like choreography in terms of fighting.
There's definitely better looking swing minute moves, and there's worse ones out there too. But I just don't think there's a good drag. I think all drags are bad. It's just the degree of it. Like, and I would compare it to like a tumor. Like, why would you say, oh, well, we're going to keep a little bit of the tumor because I know we kind of like it. It's kind of cute. But yeah, we're going to cut most of the tumor away. Why not just cut out all the tumor, and then yeah, you'd have a better, healthy
See
system.
if I can. I have this like memory of like a very early like Mordhau gameplay showcase where they had like a mace versus mace duel.
Yeah, I know the one you mean. It's I want to say, I don't know the exact video. You can get it from my video though. If you type in "dragging Melee's dirty secret," it's in that video somewhere. I think that's the one you're talking about.
Probably.
It's either in the first trailer or the second Kickstarter blog. I can't remember which one. But yeah, it's at. I'll link it in chat. But this is like a perfect example because like the comment section for that video now, and yeah, I've shown it in the video on how it differs from that timestamp. Put it in Twitch chat too. Like that mace back and forth. It's just like, oh man, it looks so cool, and then you actually get your hands on the game, and it's the exact opposite.
That's true. I just can't remember how the fight played out, but looking at it right now, we're just clashing a million times at least.
Yeah, it's just like a wrong
but at least when it comes to this duel, there's some very basically no swing manipulation. So you would say like this is a fight that would like if fights played out like this, would you say this would be like a good implementation of swing?
This looks 1,000 times better than like an actual high level riposte fight looks.
Yeah, but do you think like we'd be playing for like if you know we want a game to be like as successful as like what's it called like Rocket League and stuff like that, or to dethrone FPS, like we need people that are willing to dump like 10,000 hours in the game.
That's
like,
kind of different though. So
like how is the skill ceiling gonna be like?
Yeah, that's a different
engaging?
topic.
I mean, I think it's a pretty valid topic if we
I agree.
want a competitive melee game.
Theoretically, if like this game, what we're watching now, had the same skill ceiling as Mordhau or higher, I think you could probably go higher than Mordhau's. Then yeah, that would be like the ideal game. I'm not saying that this gameplay is that, but I think if it looked like this and had that skill ceiling, that would be ideal.
But I'm saying like if it looks like this, we're not gonna have that skill ceiling because it's.
I think it potentially could. Like
at least with the current amount of like parry timing we have in Mordhau, it's gonna. I mean, it depends. Like when you say like skill ceiling, like what are we? Because I guess you could like have maybe if we played like 1,000 duels between like the best and the worst player, I'm sure the best player would win any combat system.
Yeah. So I'd say like objectively, a game is good if it's easy to learn, hard to master. I think that's true of all games. I think that's like what you need to.
I mean, that sounds pretty true. If you look at CS, it's very easy to understand, and the biggest gripe people have with League of Legends is it's hard for players to get onboarded. So that would also support that.
Yeah, and I think you can have this kind of style of combat where it's very fast-paced, back and forth, and have a very high skill ceiling. It's not an exact example, but Mountain Blade Warband's comp scene is actually insane. Like in terms of the skill ceiling there, and the combat's not that far off in terms of the exchanges. Like, obviously, the Warband looks terrible, but like in terms of like the back and forth, it's that kind of speed. But yeah, I think it's possible. I think we just need to.
But how, like, when we are I mean, it's a little bit hard to say for like the Mountain Blade games because I don't think they've ever been perceived as comp games and have never been marketed as such either. But like, how successful are these like comp games?
No, I mean,
are these as competitive products?
I'm not saying they are, but I'm just saying that what we're watching here is. It looks good. I think you probably could design it in a way that it's that kind of speed, pace, visuals, and skill-based as well.
How? I mean, like, you are the ideas guy. If you can conceptualize a combat system like that,
you don't even have to like go too far. I think. I mean, feint reading is skill-based, right?
Yes, I'd say so.
So if essentially all you need to have in this combat. That we're watching still gameplay loop. It's just a few more feints thrown out. So far, no one's fainted, so that's probably the biggest thing that's kind of making this look a little bit.
stupid.
Well, not
They're
stupid,
just like swinging mindlessly at each other. They're more or less
yeah, it's
swinging
not high
mindlessly
level.
at each other.
This isn't a high level fight because no one's fighting. But like if you did start to see a few feints, then you would have both a high level fight that does look good. Some people say feinting looks bad. Some feints probably do look a little bit weird, but I have not seen any feint that comes close to looking as bad as like the widely accepted like common drags or like the non-problematic drags that people think are actually fine. But I disagree that any of them are fine.
Yeah, I mean, I would then rebut by saying that we have that like feints in Chivalry 1 were, or feints in Mordhau as well, are also like pretty unpopular. I think maybe the most common ground we can reach is that like noobs just kind of hate stuff that kills them.
Agreed. I think there is a solution for that in terms of like I would say Shift 2 does this the best, where you don't really see those complaints, and that's because, like I said before, they have that very easy crutch mechanic that just makes it so you can defend against everything with the held parry. I think that's actually some people say that held parry is not good. I think Shift 2 proves that it works. Fiefdom's adopting it as well, and it's just like a way better sort of noob tool than the chamber is.
But would you say that's also true for a competitive game? Because when I'm at least
Shift 2 is deeply
when I'm considering balance philosophy, I would never think that I should balance for like bad players or even average players.
That's what I mean. Like I would, because the definition of
aren't those games like kind of like they're not
it has
very
to be
successful?
easy to learn and hard to master, right?
Yeah, but you see if we were to like compare games that have different like design philosophies, you see like League of Legends give like high priority to pro play. And this game is a lot more successful like competitively than like, for example, Overwatch is like Overwatch 2 it would be called now, that had more average player oriented balance philosophy. A very classic example in like Overwatch 2 would be Sojourn around launch. That hero was by far the best hero in the game, but the devs didn't want to nerf it because it was a very aim reliant hero, which made it so that like average players struggled. I didn't struggle with it, but Overwatch 2, like Overwatch 2's player count is plummeting compared to League of Legends, while League of Legends is still like very big, especially outside of the Western world, and still pretty big in the Western world. And like in League of Legends, for example, you would have champions that have like catastrophic win rates in solo queue,
I
like 40% win rate.
League and these other games.
Yeah, but I'm thinking like design philosophy wise, like you should never balance for players who do not understand the game.
Those games don't ever even want to be balanced, because like if you look at how they kind of market themselves as patches are part of the gameplay, I think that's terrible. I think you should thinking of the word. Your objective should be to reach a game where you no longer need to touch it, where it's like as close to balance as possible.
I think that's true. But I will also say it's a little bit. I agree with that, but I do think that if you just look at the games that are popular right now, a lot of them seem to have patch-based systems. But I guess CS would also be a counterpoint to that. Like Counter-Strike has very few patches.
For a long
compared.
time, CS:GO just didn't get anything, and people still played it at tournaments. And I mean, it probably wasn't exactly balanced, but eventually the changes. Yeah, exactly. The changes should be less and less. You shouldn't be introducing whole new.
But I mean, League of Legends is a game that I mean, I guess you could say in some circumstances they do value variety over balance. But I would say overall it's a pretty well balanced game. I think if you go on the like statistic webs. I mean, if you don't want to argue the specifics in League of Legends, I understand it, because if you haven't played the game, it's hard to know.
Aspire, that's the word I was thinking of. Aspire. Yeah. All right. Yeah, we've gone hella off topic.
But yeah, I mean, if I would think the not necessarily talking about drags, but generally designing for average players, I think is a whole idea.
Talking about. Well,
because I think it leads to you making changes that are reliant on people not understanding the game.
Kind of agree, but I don't think there's anything. So let's talk about Shift 2 as an example. Do you think Shift 2 would be better than if they got rid of the held parry? And so it's just like, let's say the only way you could defend in Shift 2 was its counters. I mean, if you're not familiar with Shift 2, then you can't really talk about it. But do you think that having.
I mean,
that,
we could like take for example, like if we want to talk about a game we both play, we should like say Mordhau, I guess, and say if we remove Chamber
Well,
Fate to parry.
I don't.
But I guess that's a very niche mechanic
doesn't
for even
really
new players.
apply as well though. So Shift 2. I mean, we can talk about fiefdom or Shift 2. Essentially, I'll explain the system to you. So in Shift 2, you have a held block, and going for the held block is never objectively the right play.
Yeah, it takes a lot of stamina, right?
Yeah, so what you should be doing is countering, which is similar to a chamber, except when you counter, you've committed to the attack, right? Well, not quite, because you can still counter feint again, but let's just ignore that. So when you counter, you kind of leave yourself vulnerable to their morphs, which they call feints. So countering's the harder way to play, but it's more rewarded. So do you think that Shift 2 would be better if they actually just got rid of the held block and made it so you could only counter? That's the only way you could play. Because that's kind of what you're talking about there.
I think if we're discussing as a competitive game, I think so. Because I think I think skill expression and the effectiveness of the more difficult option should always be valued more. And I think that ideally, I mean, I guess you gotta have held block, but I think in my ideal world it would be so poor of a choice that it wouldn't really even
exactly.
be like viable
So
in 90% of cases.
Exactly. So essentially, at the high level of play, it's basically removed anyway. Because if you're going for the noob option, then you're going to lose. So really, the noob option is there for the noobs. That means the noobs don't instantly get deleted by feints and drags and whatnot. And then a high level player, they're doing all the high level stuff, and so you've got a game that's both easy to learn and hard to master. So you've kind of reached that objective truth of what a good game should look like.
I see what you're getting at, but I vehemently disagree with any strategy that requires less effort to counter than it does to execute.
Right,
and even if you can
do it, you lose. So it's only it's just like a crutch. You can't win.
Yeah, but even then, I feel like if I'm doing something that's like very difficult, what you should do something that's very difficult to counter it, even in the moment as well.
I agree, but they're not countering it. If you're just doing the crutch, you're not countering anything. You're delaying the inevitable for as long.
Yeah,
as
but I still think it's highly problematic. I do not think that it's.
But in what way? Like the fight takes too long? That's the only real complaint I can see against it.
Yeah, I think the fight taking too long, and I disagree with it like on a very fundamental level. I think that everything should be earned in a game. For example, if someone drags me and I CFTP it, I didn't earn that thing because I think CFTPing is fundamentally speaking like a misplay.
You mean chamber feint to parry, right?
Yeah, chamber feint to parry. So I think I should just like eat the hit there. Because I'm like he's doing something, my opponent's doing something like really hard, for example, but I'm taking like a very easy approach, so I don't think it should ever work, even on a stamina basis, because I think it leads to very stale gameplay. We saw this like especially in Scalagrad when you would have these like terrible nukes, like Elo nukes on they were playing. And what they would do is it was like you were just like mining an obsidian block because like you were just removing their stamina. But like why are you even defending against me? Like you should just die. I'm playing so much better than you.
I mean,
like,
I agree in the sense that I don't like chambers at all and got rid of them in OCOM. But at the same time, I don't think what you're saying that what you're doing is skillful with the riposte. I mean, I don't think it's like that skillful.
I mean, it's certainly more skillful than their ability to read if they feel the need to chamber feint to parry.
Well, I think chamber feint to parry is almost at a similar level of skill. You take the riposte, you go for like a pre-executed input. You sort of position it based on what they're and how they're moving, but it's not actually that different from
the mechanical skill in executing these two are worlds apart.
Disagree. Like the drag doesn't take much to do. You literally just move it in. As it enters release, you start to move it away.
But there's there's a crazy level. There's a crazy difference in
the hardest
like level of performance between players that are like S and D tier, which you wouldn't expect in repose only fights as well.
I think the skill ceiling comes down from defense, not attack.
Well, I mean these are linked together, and also
people say this about feints. Anyone can feint. And that people use that as a critique against feints is like, oh, you just press Q. Like it's not like a hard mechanic. That's why dragging is better because feints just press Q. But when it comes to reading feints, that's where the skill ceiling comes in because not everyone can read the feint. That's what differentiates tiers of players is how well they can defend against things. Yeah.
Also, in terms of feints that are dynamically timed and not statically timed, like in Mordhau compared to Mobius, the execution of a feint is also skilled.
I agree, but people don't say that when they're.
Yeah, I mean, that was stupid as fuck.
Typically, they would just say, like, oh, it's just press Q.
But when it comes to dragging, you wouldn't say there's anything skilled in, like, reading your opponent's movement and accounting for it, and like, I'm just talking, like, mechanically speaking, not necessarily if it's, like,
Yeah, I mean,
engaging.
I would definitely acknowledge. I mean, obviously, I teach drags, and I know some people are terrible at doing them, and so, you know, they're paying me to get better at it. And obviously, like, the very best draggers, they are kind of sort of predicting when people will start to run away, and so you have to, like, kind of.
But
like,
I'm thinking at least in swing manip is still, like, improving, and so is defense. If you, like, look at, like, modern gameplay, I guess you could say it's much more, like, accurate in terms of, like, timings and, like, aim and mouse movement when it comes to swing manipping than it was, like, a couple of years ago. Like, a really good example is, like, I don't have any footage on hand, but, like, the anti-chamber axle that, like, I think it was Poach who started doing it a lot to begin with. There was, like, a thing that, like, they got, like, invented pretty late into the game. So, like, and, like, people are just, like, still, even the best players are still massively improving at it.
I don't know. I think Pog's fallen off lately, but
You think you could beat him in a Facetin?
probably not. But he feels weaker than he did, like, a couple years ago.
I mean, he's also playing less.
True. He's fallen off into the Mortal Online Lifer crew. That is the worst drug to ever get into.
It's like a lifestyle game. You need to play 12 hours a day.
Literally. I call them lifers because, like, that's actually what they are.
Yeah,
It's
but
a subscription fee to play this.
but overall, I would think that, like, I think it's a mischaracterization of drags to say that they are very easy to execute and you can.
I don't think
they aren't,
easy
like,
to execute.
skilled,
You have
really.
to learn them. I just don't think they're this ultra skillful thing that people sometimes make them out to be. I don't think someone doing a drag is, like, that's not what makes them good. Like, obviously, it's going to help if you can.
It's part of the
essentially-
package, like anything else is in their skill set.
It's sort of an essential thing that well, it's not even essential. Like, if you just play more, you don't need to do anything. You just eventually win on stamps as long as your
That's
defense
true.
is good enough.
On vanilla, at least. But at least I would imagine. Now, you obviously have coached a lot of new players, and I think I'm more, like, tuned into the comp perspective. So maybe we have differing opinions on this, but I would imagine the average player feels that it's, like, a very mechanically engaging and skillful way when they, like, drag.
No, it definitely is. I wouldn't say it's not. But I just think
So
you can have
if it's
that.
both, like, engaging and skillful, like, is this not, like, a pretty successful mechanic in the game? Like, if we have, like, a high skill ceiling to it, and
Yeah,
people,
but you
like,
could
have a lot of
that
fun
as
doing it.
well. You could have that with a feint system as well. So
Yeah, I mean, that is already, like, in Mordhau, and I think the feint system in Mordhau is, like, fairly successful when it comes to, like, reading. I think counterattacking is quite bad, like, because, you know, we can't punish.
yeah,
But I'd say, like,
conflict
reading
is-
feints is a pretty, like, engaging experience as well. It's not as rewarding because, you know, the game
Well,
systems aren't in
if-
place.
on the official combat of Mordhau it is because all stabs can punish.
Yeah.
Is what everyone should play at OCOM. Yeah, so that's kind of my critique against that line of argument. There's people say dragging is skillful, and it's like, yeah, it is, but you can introduce skill in other areas so that you still retain that skill, but it's in a package that plays better and looks better, which is probably the most important thing. Is you don't just instantly, because the biggest problem this genre faces right now is there's been so many games that kind of sort of hid drags under the table, and then they get into the game, you encounter the comp player drags you, and you uninstall. And it's happened so many times now. That's
I agree with that. You see it. I think it's like a General Sam video about Mordhau where he says
Yeah,
that you have like a
exactly.
month to enjoy the game before like the
and
game
the thing
becomes
is, back when he
unfun.
did that, I was like, yeah, fuck you. We fixed it this time. Mordhau was the
But no,
best. Mordhau devs fixed it. I was literally like the biggest Mordhau fanboy at that point. And I hated that video. And I realized, oh wait, no, he was actually right. And yeah,
Well, would
I
you
just-
say you're more jaded than me? It kind of sounds like it.
yeah, I'm the biggest Mordhau hater now.
Yeah, I think we've hit like I guess you could say the most like fundamental disagreements of like our perceptions of the game. So it just kind of sounds like it's up to like subjective views of how we feel like the game functions or should function.
And in
Um,
terms of whether or not you can actually retain an audience,
or
like,
if it's fun.
minimize dragging.
Or like even not even if that as well, but also like in terms of like internally in Mordhau, the experience of playing with and versus swing manip. It sounds like on those 2 points we have like pretty significant disagreements that are probably like not necessarily rooted like in I guess you could say it's an axiomatic disagreement. You probably know that term.
I'd say yours are more rooted in racism, where mine
Yeah.
are more rooted in like facts and logic.
Ah, okay. I don't entirely disagree with that characterization.
I'm glad.
I hate Americans, so we it is at least partially true. But no, any closing remarks? I guess you could say. What are your main? What's your? If you had to choose like one disagreement with my, I guess view of this subject, which one would
biggest
it be?
disagreement would be that you can just make drags a bit weaker and then still sell it off to an audience. I strongly disagree. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe it's just meant to be the chosen dragon game that proves me wrong. Maybe it's going to be one of these other ones, but
Do you guys want to do like chat questions?
Wait, but before that about like Mobius, I feel like Mobius should be disallowed as any sort of like experiment because that game is just so bad, and the sign philosophy was horrible.
Yep, we'll
I
see
remember
how the other ones
specifically,
do.
I asked like when they had multiple weapons apart from just one. I asked like Wizardish like the fucking mace is god awful to play against. Like, it's the most unfun shit ever. And he said just don't duel it, but like it's under duelist class. So is the duelist not supposed to like duel? Like what's going on? But no, I think every part of like Mobius's design philosophy was horrible. When also it came to experimenting with new features as well. I think Rongo did everything wrong that he possibly
Yeah,
could
but
have.
like, how many iterations of that are we going to have to go through before people are like, yeah, okay, maybe we need to get rid of drags? Like, how many games need to come and go?
I mean, if Ad Mortem comes and goes, I guess you'll be 100% vindicated and right, in my eyes at least. And I'll 8 years down the line, when the game eventually comes out, you'll
10 years,
I'll fly to England and shake your hand and say I was wrong.
15 years later, when Contingent comes out, we'll see if Feint-based gameplay has any legs either.
I mean, yeah, or if Melee is just a dead game.
Yeah, maybe Crush is right.
Game genre. Yeah, maybe Crush is the most vindicated man alive.
That's why I can't play Mordhau anymore. It's like playing Mordhau makes me sometimes think that Crush is right, but that's just because Mordhau has got so many things wrong with it. But actually, like, it starts to warp my perception of the genre just because of it was bad, man.
I guess if I had to say like my biggest disagreement with your with like in this subject would be would be your experience, your characterization of the experience of defending versus and attacking with drags or swing manip in general. So I guess these are like the two major disagreements we have with each other that are not allowing this to progress much further than what we've reached.
Do you think that which do you think would be better? A game where you could only, and just talking about Mordhau, ripostes only duel or normal swings only duel?
I'm thinking I'd probably enjoy riposte only duels more. But if we're talking like when you say better, are you talking like my subjective experience? Or are you talking about how like successful the game would be as a whole?
No, just your own experience. I kind of want to say the same, but I think that's mainly because that's what I do anyway when I play Mordhau. That's kind of how I view Mordhau, is just riposte only, because like that's the objective best way to play. So it's kind of like Mordhau.
I think that's probably true. I do think ripostes are, for the most part, stronger than feints. But actually, I don't even know about it. I think feints are pretty comparable in strength overall to ripostes, but they are definitely more risky. But I do think if you had like let's say you had like the best player versus the worst player, I think they'd have similar like KDs in like a first to 10 with feints only or riposte only.
Wait, sorry. You said if you have a
So
good
I
player
think
versus
that
a bad player.
yeah, I think riposte and feints are probably I guess riposte and neutral game are probably equally strong. But
Disagree.
because I think that the KD of like a really good player versus a really bad player would probably be about the same in a first
Yeah,
to 10.
about 10-0 on both, right?
Yeah. But even if like let's say you're playing versus like someone a tier above you, you probably still go like somewhere between 10 and 5 and 10 and 7 on like either combat system in that case.
All right. Law, you got to put this up as a VOD because I need to steal this for my channel.
You said something about channel questions earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe the loyal stout laws have
Yeah, I
Any
mean, if,
person
I
questions
think
they
if
wanna
anybody
answer.
has like some arguments in chat, maybe you could read them out and answer them. But I don't know if anybody's gonna say anything.
probably no one's gonna say anything smart.
No one's actually watching.
Should die.
That stream is fucking. The viewers are dropping
shit
off right
talking
now.
each
I'm
other
seeing
more.
it.
We need
Law and no aura.
Holy. I'm speaking for all the stout laws here. When are you gonna start streaming again, Stouty?
Yeah, well,
I don't know. We're on day 3 of the extended break. We'll see. Like I said, I just don't want to play Mordhau anymore. And Marathon was meant to replace it, but Marathon kind of sucks.
That game looks horrible with aim assist.
They took that off today, but I don't know. Maybe I should give it another go.
What's a Stoutlaw? What's your favorite game recently? Or is all games bad in your opinion?
Literally, I need to find a new hobby. Like literally.
Gaming stead.
Yeah, try and go to the gym more.
Wait, just realized that without Jirag's footwork also dies. What do you have to say about this, Stouty?
No, you can do like cool anti-feint movements, and you can still dodge attacks. And
So you would say the footwork for countering feints is more engaging than for countering ripostes?
definitely not
Oh,
because riposte footwork is like essential. You have to do it. But when we talk about footwork, I mean the coolest piece of footwork is obviously the Stouty jump.
Naturally.
But other than that, I'm not really seeing anything. Actually, no. You see crazy feint footwork. Remember the Rocky movement against the stab. Remember that? The Rocky stab.
That's
getaway.
true, but if we're
I've just got
talking about
insane
like
anti-feint movement.
if we're talking about like we're just going through some like pre-learned motion, as you were saying, versus riposte,
Yeah, I mean both of them are
it's
pre-learned.
the same every time. No, he turns around and he zigzags.
I agree, but I'd say that's actually cooler than anti-riposte movement and probably more skillful too. I can't replicate what Pog does when he falls for a feint, like he's so slippery. So actually, yeah, there's crazy movement still in feint only.
Nice, but you would say that it's more difficult, but it is still something that you just kind of learn and
Yeah, you
repeat
definitely
over
learn
and
it.
over. One.
I won't disagree, but I think it's you kind of have to like snap into. Maybe I haven't done it enough. They're very similar in terms of you have to learn and execute it quickly, but they're still there definitely. You don't just lose all footwork with getting rid of drags.
But I would say that like at least when we compare like anti-riposte swing minute to anti-feint, not swing minute, excuse me, anti-riposte footwork to anti-feint footwork, this would like show you have like some sort of bias because you were saying that like a main issue with the anti-riposte footwork is that it's something you just learn and repeat over and over again, but you don't see it as nearly as problematic with feints for footwork.
Well, the difference there is that the feint footwork is your last-ditched effort, whereas the first thing you'd meant to try to do is read the feint, which you're not doing against the riposte. The riposte is you early parry and footwork when it ends up being a drag. So whereas the footwork part of the feint only happens if you've failed to read, whereas reading is not an option when you deal with the riposte.
Yeah, I think we just fundamentally disagree on this point. I I don't
So-
think we're gonna reach much common ground on
that's just
on
true,
this
isn't it?
specifically.
When you deal with a feint, you only need to footwork after you've parried and fallen for the feint. You can still try to read the feint.
I mean,
Before
you still like. It depends like what you say you need to or not, but you definitely try to like mitigate the unreadability of the feint before it happens.
That style of movement you do is only something you do after having fallen for a feint.
Yeah, the like the Rocky footwork, but I'm
exactly.
talking like
Or
you
the
know
pocket work.
if you're playing to win and you're trying to play optimally, you're still holding S. You're not walking into feints. You're still moving in a you're not just like ego reading, standing still.
Yeah, so that's another type of footwork. So now you have two stages of footwork. You've got the footwork where you're still attempting to read, and after, if you've fallen for a feint, you can then go for a second type of footwork, which is more evasive to get away from the following swing. So, if anything, we have more footwork now in feint-based gameplay than you would with the riposte, because the riposte, I mean, I guess with the riposte, you can footwork before having parried, and then parry, and then footwork after if it ends up being a drag. But yeah, the point is, there's still footwork plenty in both.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think Shot's statement there is a little bit. I think it's misunderstanding the like.
It's just the problem,
like what it means, because like in a very basic sense, you are holding S away from it. So I guess it would be a very basic sense of footwork you're still using.
I think the biggest problem in this genre is you can be the best player in the game. Shots obviously is the best one VX, and I've seen this with Pog as well. And like lots of very good players have very bad understanding or bad ideas in general.
I think that's true. I do ever think all good takes about a game come from good players, but I do not think all good I do not think all takes from good players are of high quality. If you have drags, you can mitigate with A and D, and you can run behind the dragger and shit.
Like, I'll get like Red, Blue, and Bear will still argue that ripostes are readable, or sometimes they would just like they would say something that completely contradicts what happened in that test video we did. Like, and it was like, you were there, you were in the video, I was reading your feints, I was hitting you 10 times in a row with riposte, and you're still telling me that you could parry it. It's like, what?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true, but I do also think it speaks like volumes about the experience of reading, or at least, because you don't think we're actually reading, like attempting to read swing manip, that people still, regardless, find it like engaging and fun.
I mean, just watch.
But I guess you could also say that it's
Pogfest, and it completely confirms what I'm saying. Like both players are just lost at sea when it's their opponent's turn to riposte. They're just lost, and just like both of them. That is why riposte gameplay is shit.
What sort of gameplay would you like? What would make it look like they're not lost? Would it just be that they're standing still and parrying with a high, like,
honestly,
success
Kite Shield gameplay. Like when I play Kite Shield, I just feel so much more confident when dealing with riposte. It's like, okay, I have something to work with here. So to your point, if you were to make Mordhau but make the default parry length Kite Shield length, that would go a long way into like making people not be so annoyed at drags, I think, because then everyone can deal with them. That's basically what Shiv 1 was. Like, dragging wasn't, even though people learned to hate dragging in Shiv 1 because it was still really good if you could pull it off perfectly. It was a lot harder to do in Shiv 1 than it is in Mordhau, where, like you were saying, Mordhau's more swing minute based.
I guess that's true, but I think that also leans into what I said pretty much like at the start of this, that I think if you could fine tune the ratio between release and parry uptime to have it be, I guess, more palatable.
You can definitely make it more palatable, but again, I kind of compare that to like a tumor. Like, why would you want to make it palatable? Why not just excise it completely?
So I think that it's very telling that that the people who do play Mordhau aren't playing the off the rip one, just like logging on to only play Bastard Sword, which is the, I guess, premier weapon.
They're gonna say OCOM.
I mean that's a bad example, because we are 6 years into the Mordhau lifetime, if you can even call it a lifetime.
But yeah.
I respect Stouty. He played Melee Slasher since 2013. He's a big name. How do you feel about this praise from
Shots is
from Shots?
Shots has been playing like since 2015, I think. Maybe earlier. I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of weird because like people didn't play comp when they first picked up Shiv 1, typically. You might have just been running around and an objective. That's what I did
FFAing.
for a long time. Yeah, I was not a comp player at 2013.
That's how I started. I remember I played Chivalry when I was like 12 years old or something. I was just throwing fire pods and dual yards and getting banned all day.
That's the best way to play it.
But as I said earlier, I think we've hit like a pretty
Yeah, you think
foundational
dragging can
disagreement.
survive? I think dragging will kill anything that it touches.
You see, there's a malignant tumor that even no matter how small it is, will
100%.
always be bad for the game. While I think that if we could like, there's some sort of Goldilocks zone, it would be that would be way more palatable.
Yeah, that's a good way of summarizing it.
The poll is 50-50, so I guess it's a draw for now.
Wait, there's a poll? I'm going to vote in it. I'm going to vote.
You can't do that.
What? You
Hey,
can't?
hey.
Hello? It's not fair.
There's the results. I've
No,
won 5 votes to 4.
Do a Twitch poll instead.
Oh, it's
Can't.
50-50 again.
I'm
I
not-
might have just voted.
Stop the count. Stop the count. I should have screenshotted it. Oh, someone's... No, they still
No,
need to sign...
it-
That's it, I'm going on my phone 3G.
Yeah, it's Ocom versus Dog Mod. It's true, viewed by Wagner S.
I'm gonna upload the VOD and you can go watch it then.
Thank you.
Sorry, what would you say was the is the strongest argument for drags?
The strongest argument is that they're fun. If you find it fun, I can't really say anything against that. But then, you already have the perfect game for you. You have Mordhau. So, yeah, there's not really much more I can say. Other than, like, go play Mordhau for the rest of your life until the servers turn off.
I guess so. You can be like the last few guys still playing Chivalry.
I mean, obviously, if a game comes out and, like, dragging's in it and it's incredibly popular, and it remains incredibly popular, then I don't know how to have to fundamentally...
Let's say like let's say Ad Mortem comes out and a year down the line it's like stable at 8,000 concurrent players and it has, I guess you could say, swing manip focused gameplay that also includes dragging. Would you say that you've been proven wrong then?
Yeah, how could I not?
What's like the minimum amount of players you would think that would like show that this
Honestly,
is
even if it
palatable?
had like 5k concurrents that were all into comp, and like, because obviously that game isn't really doing much other than comp. So if it had like 5 to 10k players, I would say that's kind of impressive.
Mission successful.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
Although that's not
Um,
where I'd personally like to see the genre, but that alone would be like sort of yeah, it'd be impressive given that that's not happened yet. Actually, Dark and Darker has 10k concurrents, but that's not
It's not a
really
comp game.
off the back of its gameplay. It's more of like everyone's addicted to getting upgrades. and
Extraction
stuff.
shooters kind of.
Yeah.
Like, does Dark and Darker really have 10k?
Is any other like disagreements you guys have?
I mean, you were saying something
Um,
about like you wanted more immigration, like more deportations, like less immigration. So you're saying something like that?
Wait, what?
That was
Yeah.
pretty crazy to be honest, but
No Americans. They should all be put in a camp with treadmills until they slim down.
Jesus. Jesus.
What do you think about RFK Jr. Putting all autistic people on the registry, Stouty?
wait, what? I don't know that.
Yeah.
I know that in the UK, like if they're making it so like everyone that's saying that they're trans, they're now like testing them for autism or something. Like that's literally something they're doing in the UK now.
Sucking.
UK
Man,
trans.
my Twitter feed's gonna be goated.
What we know about plans to test transgender children for autism and ADHD.
What's your opinion on that, Stouty? Are we keeping it?
I don't like. The
Are we
viewers
keeping
are
that under
annoyed,
wraps?
but,
We're woke laws. We woke as hell.
It's true.
Or who do you think is like the biggest frauds in this genre are like
Sure.
in terms of like just the worst ideas, continually just ruining any discussion that they enter? I would say it's
Trash man.
Trash
Fuck
Man.
that guy.
That's crazy. We both
It's
say
the-
Trash Man.
It's the craziest thing as well, because when you argue with him, it's like he's not even attempting to understand what you're saying.
I just imagine like him just having like the smuggest smirk and just like he knows he's wrong, but he's just like typing shit out anyway because like.
I don't even think he feels like he's wrong. I just feel like he's not even like when you argue with him, he's not even engaging with what you're saying.
Yeah, and he'll just like.
It's I remember like this was like a long time ago, but I have this like vivid memory. We were discussing like
he says 1 minute previous. He'll say he'll quote him on something that directly contradicts something else he wrote 1 minute earlier, and then he'll just carry on like it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Sorry,
we were discussing like he said like it's a gamble to parry something. And I said like, what do you mean by that? He said like there's a fundamental like there's a percent chance you get hit. So I'm thinking like, okay, when I'm thinking about like what a gamble is, it's a very high stakes action that you know, in the time frame of a round of Melee poses a significant risk, because like he would think that a 99.99% chance of something being successful is a gamble. But if we take just like the pace of Mordor, for example, you could like be parrying for probably like 5 hours in a row if you don't have stamina.
He says the same thing about reading feints. He says if you get hit by one feint, then the feint is unreadable. Like you could read 100 feints,
so like,
and then you get hit by one, and he says, "Oh, it can't be readable then, because if it was readable, you'd read every single one."
It's so like uncharitable. It just shows that he has no understanding of like what it means to like win. Because if you're reading 99 feints and getting hit by one, you are winning the duel. You're not gamble reading. Like you're reading it to a high enough degree that you are, you know,
or any game or anything. Because like
no, he's
fallacious.
Him and Spaghetti Dan. The only thing they've ever done in Melee is having a higher message count in the official Discord than the population of Luxembourg. These guys have done nothing ever. They're unaccomplished. They've won nothing, and they've achieved nothing, and they will go on to achieve nothing in any game they play.
That's
Holy
crazy.
Shit.
And then
what a nuke.
That's crazy how you know two of the biggest. There's the fraud trifecta, and then who's the last one? Do you know?
The last one.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some fucking grade A retards in that Mobius Discord. I could probably just go and like roll a dice and pick out someone.
It's the other big one. The other one is like the third most posts.
Is it like the guy who does like fucking like some martial arts? He also had like perma retarded opinions.
Nah, not him. But like
Khaleesi?
he was just.
Khaleesi's a fraud.
Yes,
Khaleesi's a fraud.
Yes. That's the big three. The big.
Bro, you can instantly tell. You can instantly tell because like when you look at like, for example, the takes that come out of people that like for example just playing, you can see like the way he's talking about other games as well, the way he's talking about like Deadlock. He's got like 2,000 hours in that game, but when you read his opinions, like there's so many things like where he's misunderstanding the like systems in the game on such a fucking like fundamental level. You can tell like his brain isn't wired for video games. And certainly not comp games either. Maybe he could design like Mario Party or something. But that's probably like the cognitive limit of his like ability. Oh my god, the whole like fucking private discussion channel, it was just so disgusting in the Mobius Discord.
It's like he is. I'm talking about Trashman specifically. He's like a
retard.
It's like a parasite. I mean, he's that too. He's like a parasite. He's moved off the corpus of Mobius, and I saw in the latest fiefdom trailer they were showing off their Discord discussion channel, and as they were scrolling down, I was just seeing Trashman.
Yeah, bro, that fucking guy should be banned.
He should literally. Every game dev needs to ban him on site. Like he's making things worse by.
If you have like a bazooka in front of Trashman, how hard would it be not to pull the trigger? Like a loaded bazooka.
Out, like
Chuck Norris difficulty or harder? Fuck that guy. Bastard player. Bastard human.
Yep. Alright, you can end the stream now.
Unless you have a fourth person you really hate in Mobius.
Nah, that's the trifecta of frauds.
Yeah, there might not be any more content left to squeeze out.
Unless Law. How has your day been?
Fucking horrible. I didn't see.
So it's a liability.
If you follow, I'll put the VOD up.
This guy has a Justin Bieber profile picture. 15.8 thousand followers. Wait, what the fuck? Wait, VIP this guy.
Fuck you. No, fuck you. What if I put my fingers in your mouth when I bareback you?
Actually, Stouty, like how detrimental do you think the community experience was to the like Mordhaus popularity? Because you see like there was like some very like infamous articles about like Mordhau being racist when it came out.
I'll leak something there. Alright.
I thought it was about to accept that term.
Holy shit, that's fucking more content.
I was emailing game journalists, and me and Crush thought it'd be a good idea that it would like cause some, articles around the game. And I was like emailing them journalists like, yo, look at the forums, look at the shit. I don't know if that had any.
Wait, are you being for real right now?
I can dig up the emails, yeah.
Oh, so you are being for real right now.
For real. Like, yeah. And Crush was on board with this as well. We both thought this was a good idea.
The craziest thing is, it's also a developer who's on board with it as well. I'm gonna market my game as being racist.
I don't know if it's about the racism thing necessarily. We just thought it'd be funny to trigger those. And to be fair, I don't know if it even had a negative, because at first I didn't think it had any effect whatsoever. If not, it probably helped it, to be honest.
That's fucking funny as fuck, man.
Every game's toxic. Like Dota, Counter-Strike, the two most popular games. You join the match and someone's like saying a racial slur to you. Like it's
That's
not.
true. It's as well because you're playing with Eastern Europeans, bro. Like they could say much worse, but they're like moderating themselves.
Right, let me find my email at Kotaku. Let's see.
That's fucking no way. Like Crush as well, because like sorry, you're a bit of a troll. Like I could see, I could understand that, but like why is Crush in a game he's revenue sharing with, like trying to market it as being like completely unmoderated, like a racist cesspool?
That's not exactly the angle we were going for. It was more of because Crush had this idea that he was gonna have like a toggle to turn on and off diversity. This is really an idea that he's going to pitch, or like he posted that on the forums, like the diversity toggle, right? And so like I was like, yo, we should admire this game, like we should just get some articles about this. Is it like, because at the end of the day, like it didn't affect its popularity whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, Mordhau was definitely much more popular than anyone anticipated, so I guess it's it definitely didn't hurt it significantly.
I'm not sure if it's Crush's idea. I think I kind of vaguely said I might do it, and he kind of showed some enthusiasm. I wouldn't necessarily say like he was. Like,
that's fucking funny as fuck, man.
I remember talking to him about it, and he seemed to find it funny at the very least.
I did not expect that. Do you think you would do that again for a contingent, for example?
Yeah, probably not. Probably not.
Steering clear of that.
News tips, Kotaku. Oh yeah, I found it. All right, here's what I sent. I sent a link to the Steam community discussions, and I can't. It doesn't actually have a thread anymore. Dev response can be seen from Crush, and it says, quote, "We're still looking into adding female characters post-release, as was promised. The realism complaint is valid, so when we add them, we might add a simple client-side toggle for both female and male characters, which would let you disable them. And I also said the community forums are also rampant with blatant sexism and transphobia." So I don't know if they ever did that, but like, yeah, I did actually do that. I'm partly responsible. But this wasn't even. I didn't even do this as a hater. I just did this because it'd be funny. And
yeah, I mean, it is pretty funny. Everyone's been laughing at it. Man, that's fucking hilarious. Don't forget, Crush has a trans online girlfriend. Now, the drama merchants on this were of dubious quality, but I'm inclined to believe it. Now, Stouty, any other funny stuff you did, like akin to emailing journalists?
Some very funny stuff, but I can't.
But that's gonna have to be under wraps for now.
Yeah,
I mean that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah, all right, I gotta go now, but
Oh, yeah. See you later, man.
Pretty good first podcast here, like debate podcast. Yeah.
Holy goat episode, holy shit.
The fucking bomb at the end.
That Lord drop was crazy, holy shit.
Do you think you're more of a stout law or less of a stout law now after hearing that?
I'm way more of a stout law, bro. Actually, I got lost out.
You thought it was maxed out, but it had a little bit more to go.
I thought he was already maxed out goaded, but he just keeps on giving.
All right. Well,
Funny as fuck.
yeah, I think that's the end.
But imagine like all those articles, they were all just because of Stouty.
Bye, guys.